There is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. You'll hear stories about this, so much more, right here, Supernatural Confrontations. Folks, are you feeling unsure about your finances these days? Well, you're not alone. That's why Noble Gold Investments is here to help. Just hear it straight from the folks that they've helped. The Noble crew walked me through everything, no stress. With Noble Gold's help, I can finally sleep easy at night. And now this month, Noble Gold Investments is handing out a free 5-ounce silver American the Beautiful coin if you qualify for an IRA. Invest in gold and silver with Noble Gold Investments. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Folks, remember, we've invested with them, and I am really glad we did. But number to call, 877-646-5347. Once again, that's 877-646-5347. We invested with them, and I'm glad we did, especially when we look at the trillions of dollars that the United States is in debt. If it collapses, you and I both will be glad we put some of our money into gold or silver. So I'm back here once again with Karen Wilkerson. This is a pre-record. We're talking about her book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. If you have not seen the primer, go back and watch it. Part 1 was yesterday. This is part 2. Will probably be about maybe 4 or 5 parts of the series. We are doing a deep dive because this is really important. This is our wheelhouse. We've been talking about the breeding program forever. A lot of people, I remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago, people scoffed at it. But we know that it's real. And when you sit down and you start talking to abductees, it just ties in with the whole biblical prophetic narrative. So you state in your book that non-human entities are intervening with humans in an attempt to corrupt the human bloodline. And that is the dark agenda of Satan and his cohorts. What do you mean by that?
That's a great question. The entities that have been abducting me from the time that I was as young as I can remember, once I got to an age where I could bear children, the relationship with them changed, and it became something of more of a sexual nature. I had a what I talk about in the book, or I write about in the book, a handler who was with me quite a bit, and he began having a sexual relationship with me, and that relationship created children, created pregnancies. I didn't realize that at the time that that was the reason I was pregnant. I thought maybe it was from my husband or from, at the time. But so the dark agenda is that they're trying to take our human ovum from women and sperm from the men and create races of hybrid beings that are half human, half fallen angelic entities, what they are, the extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. By any name, they are the same thing. And they're creating these beings, these babies, these beings that are not human, that are evil, that are doing everything they can to pull people away from the truth.
Let me ask you this. You talk about, I want to define the terms. We talk about extraterrestrial. So anything, any entity that does not originate on planet Earth is by definition an extraterrestrial. But where we both agree that these are not from Zeta Reticuli or Epsilon Eridani, these are in fact the fallen watchers. These are interdimensional, extra-dimensional entities. Will you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. In the book, I take a little bit of time in the beginning to offer some definitions of some words that may be new for some people or may have various meanings for different people, so you understand what my definition is. So I define extraterrestrial, yes, as anything that's not human, not of this earth. And these beings were clearly extraterrestrial, whether they came from under the ground, under the water, out somewhere, regardless of where they came from at that moment. their origin was of the fallen angelic beings that the Bible speaks of in Genesis 6, that some of the extra canonical books, such as Jasher and the Book of Enoch, have a lot of really good information, and those books are referenced in our Holy Bible, and I believe they are a great reference source for us too. But these beings that I was with, they were intelligent. They didn't look completely like us, but they did have similarities. Some of them, there were many different kinds. They were intelligent. They knew what they were doing. They had an agenda, and they were clearly far more advanced than we were, or right now, than we were at the time when they were. I say were in past tense because they're not taking me. They're not taking me now, but they're an advanced civilization, an advanced race of beings that God created, that were angelic beings that were fallen, and they've told me as much. One of them in particular has even told me as much. So it's obvious that they're not human. They're not some benevolent space brother that came here and seeded us. They are God's creation, and they are not here to help us. They're not here for good. So
you were taken at a very young age, and in our primer we talked about that. Now 10 days ago, whatever, and this is part 2 in the series that we're doing on your book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. You're taken at a very young age. Describe what happens when you're taken, when you're moved out of the room.
Sure. When you're taken, when I've been taken, always before it happens, you feel the difference. You can feel the evil coming. It's just every hair on your body raises up. The goosebumps happen. You feel it. You hear it. There's a change in the sounds. If it was in the country, the cicadas or the other animals would quiet down.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, there was a change in the air, the change in everything. Often there was a very low hum that would start and get lower and lower and lower. And the next thing you know, you're in a state of usually sleep paralysis. For me, sometimes it wasn't sleep paralysis, but most of the time it was. So I could see and I was aware of everything happening around me, but I had no control. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. Anyone else who might happen to be in the room with me would be pretty much switched off. They couldn't respond to me if I tried to get them to respond. You can yell at them or hit them. They won't move. They don't respond. And then from there, often beings would show up at my bedside or at the foot of the bed, somewhere in the room, in the doorway. That's when, especially as a small child, you have incontinence issues, things like that would happen because you knew it was coming. I just remember being so scared when I was little to go to bed that I just wanted to find somewhere to hide, somewhere they couldn't find me.
Wow.
But there's nowhere to hide. And I just, how do you go to sleep as a little kid knowing that they're going to come for you? No matter, there's nothing you can do, Eventually you just find a place to just compartmentalize it. And so once they do come in and they take you, you kind of get used. It's hard you get used to seeing them. They don't shock you as much, They levitate you off the bed, either through a closed window, or up to the ceiling. You get right up into that ceiling. It's like, how is this happening? How am I going through a ceiling, or how am I going through a closed window? But you just go right through. But you feel, there's like this vibration that happens, and you feel like your body's in like a bazillion little pieces when it happens. It's the weirdest.
Wow.
There's nothing that there's no way to describe it that would make sense to anyone, except you feel like you're made of a bazillion little ball bearings, and somehow you're going through one piece at a time. That makes sense.
And
and then usually I'm shut off at that point. Once you get out, then I'm usually you're going up And sometimes you didn't remember, I remember seeing trees or rooftops,
Huh.
and then, or the river or whatever was around me at the time. And then usually I'm shut off at that point, or maybe you pass out. I don't know.
Because Alan Matthews talks about the same thing in the film. You know when it's about to happen. You've got 3, 4, 5 seconds, and you talk about going through the window, and feeling like a bunch of ball bearings. Your body, they're manipulating. These entities can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy. As Dr. Jacob says in the film, you're looking at a future physics. As Dr. Jacob says, everybody goes through the closed window. I mean, basically, everybody goes through the closed window. I have to wrap this up here. I'm gonna give you the last word just on this, and we'll pick this up again. Folks, the book is called Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest. It's by Karen Wilkinson, a lifelong abductee, not anymore. She's got the victory. Karen was the centerpiece of our fourth film in our UFO series on abductions. You'll want to check that out also. But the book is a deep dive, and I'm not aware of any other book like this from a Christian perspective. As far as I know, there is none. There's no other book from an abductee who was abducted at a very early age and went through her whole life like this, and then she gets set free from Jesus, and now she's writing. And the Lord has impressed upon you, get this book out, and we are pleased, really pleased to do that. Karen, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, LA. I just appreciate that you're giving me an opportunity to speak about this. I know this has happened to so many people, and I know that it's really hard for some people to listen to. And if you're one of those people, I pray for you. I pray that you find the relief and the release that you need, and that is there for you with God. God is there for you, and you don't have to go through this. You don't have to be taken. If this is hard for you to listen to, find someone to talk to. God will just pray for someone. God will send someone. God will hear you. And that's the reason I'm doing this, because there are more people out there like me who need someone to listen, and they need to know it's okay.
Karen, thanks for coming on the record. We'll see you back here tomorrow to continue our interview with you. Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, lamarzulli.net, lamarzulli.net. Thank you for coming on, Karen. Folks, remember, there is a supernatural world that surrounds us, and sometimes it manifests to people like you and me. Thanks so much for watching.